today. My name is Michał Krawczyk. I'm one of the co-founders of INT4 AG. I've been in the SAP integration space for a little bit over 20 years. I co-authored a few SAP Press books about those topics, and I've also been an SAP mentor in the SAP integration space. But for the last 7 years, I've been helping to promote our software, which is called INT4 Suite, and which is actually the topic of today's session. Even though we would like to, we will be discussing the automated testing and test-driven development. What I would like to maybe start with, I would like to tell you a little bit more. Why are we doing that? So, apart from the obvious reasons, right? So bringing more quality assurance to the integration, modernization programs. There's actually one more, and our software, which is called INT4 Suite, is used in most cases to for different SAP programs to eliminate external dependencies. Those dependencies are listed, as you can see on the screen over here. Let me maybe go to the full screen mode. There are basically three types of external dependencies that we can see on our SAP Integration Suite migration programs. Third-party test systems that are usually not available, maybe hard to reach, maybe they don't even exist. The second one would be EDI partners or B2B partners, for that matter. Those partners are usually very, very difficult to get in touch with, especially for testing. And just this sheer size of them, for many of our customers, they have either multiple hundreds or thousands of EDI partners connected to their landscapes. But the last one is also very, very important, especially for this audience. So the way that our software is used is to eliminate business and functional consultants. Now the question is, why do we want to eliminate all of those external systems or external parties? The bottom line is that we want to make the integration modernization programs agile. We know that modernization programs are not that difficult from the technical perspective, right? We've seen quite a large number of very, very big migrations to Integration Suite already. The only problem that or maybe the one of the largest problems that the companies are having to migrate to Integration Suite is not technical. I mean, everything is working. The Integration Suite has a vast array of excellent functionalities, but in order to go there, we need to make sure that it's not only the development team that can do the work, but also all of the surrounding teams, which are the test systems, the EDI partners, and the business and functional consultants who need to approve all of those developments. And so I will try to concentrate on showing you how to eliminate those external dependencies, even though obviously we will be talking about testing. Before we go into the technical slide, maybe just a few topics about the company. So INT4 AG, we're a Swiss-based SAP partner and the market leader in test automation of SAP integration. We love sharing our knowledge. We have an SAP learning training that describes how our software is working. But together with my colleagues, we've also published 12 SAP Press books. But for the purpose of this discussion that we're having today, of the session, I think that the two that you can see right here are very important, because both in the testing SAP APIs, meaning testing SAP integration strategy and execution, and architecting, and the book from 2025, architecting EDI for S/4HANA, we're discussing the topics of testing SAP integrations. So the one on the left-hand side describes Integration Suite migrations. So it answers all of the basic questions, like why should you be doing the testing of that? What does that mean that we will be doing the testing? Who is doing that? When should we be doing that? And obviously a little bit on how. The one on the right-hand side goes a little bit more into the into a more specific capability of the integration suite, which is the B2B or TPM functionalities. So our software is also used also together with SAP Consulting. We're moving customers to Integration Suite B2B. And there's also a whole chapter in this book that is describing how to test the B2B scenarios, which are obviously one of the variants of the general testing of Integration Suite. We're not only a recommended partner by SAP for this journey in terms of testing, but actually we're a trusted partner. And what does that mean that our software is trusted by SAP? So actually INT4 Suite is the only partner solution that is OEM'd by SAP in a RISE with SAP service that is called BTP Integration Suite Test Automation. So we're the only partner that is working in this service. That means that apart from many things like functionality validations, business continuity validations, there are many other things where SAP already validated our software, so it's very safe to use. But one of the more key components or maybe approaches is actually our strong data protection first approach. The way how our software works on a very, very high level is that we would take thousands or hundreds of thousands, or in many cases, millions of historical messages from your historical integration platform. And this can be SAP Process Orchestration, this can be MuleSoft, this can be Boomi, Web Methods. There are many more. We're working with a lot of them. We will take all of those messages, store them in our software, and once you start the migration to Integration Suite, we will rerun those messages through the Integration Suite. Because we will be downloading all of those hundreds of thousands or millions of messages, there might be some sensitive data, and we need to be able to store them in a secure place. And this is what our software is doing. So first of all, we would store the data in the SAP database. So it's always protected by SAP authorizations, SAP user roles, SAP archiving, and we can also scramble the data or hide certain fields so that the data is always safe in the database. This is obviously very important, especially for our customers in the regulated industries, or maybe who have a very strong integration related that contains a lot of GDPR specific data. Maybe let me start off with a general comment. So there was a Gartner a few years back presented an information that they did on integration platform migrations, that 65% of integration platform migration projects is related to testing. Very often when we discuss with the development teams, they do not believe that. They're just saying, okay, but how is this possible? How come 65% if we're not doing that much testing? For us, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 20%. What we tend to notice is that this is actually true. So the development perspective of this 65% is only 10 to 20%. Because developers are not doing the majority of testing for the integration platform migrations. The majority of the tests would be done by business and functional consultants. So this is actually where the 65% comes in. It's very often, let's say, outside of the main scope of the Integration Suite modernization project, but it's a part of the migration program anyway. So this is the piece that can potentially slow down the project, but this is the piece that we can almost fully eliminate. And with our software, we can work with many, not only with SAP Process Orchestration migrations to the Integration Suite, but also we support many other platforms like Web Methods, MuleSoft, Boomi, IBM Sterling, we can work with Seaburger. So we can help customers, and we're helping customers to move to the integration suite from many other platforms as well. But what is the most important thing? The most important thing that we can basically reduce we can reduce the business and functional involvement in the string integration testing and user acceptance testing to basically either single day or maybe a few days. So irrespectively of the number of integrations you have, and we've been working with customers who have moved over 5,000 interfaces already or using our software, and this is maybe one of our largest customers so far. But we're working with a lot of customers who have thousands of integrations, and this holds true. So we can basically, with the use of our software, we can basically eliminate this maybe unseen work of the functional consultants and business consultants and reduce it to days. Our software, just maybe from the capability perspective, our software can test all of the capabilities of Integration Suite, right? So we're not only limited to maybe testing the cloud integration, we can also test the API management, we can also simulate events for event management. We're working with we can simulate events to advanced event management. So just like Isabel mentioned, if you're thinking about about starting to work with advanced event mesh, one of the things that you will very quickly find out that you will need to do is you will need to do performance testing, because you want to make sure that the huge load of the events that is getting posted either from some specific business documents or business events from your SAP system or into your SAP system are processed in the timely manner. There's one thing that is maybe not visible here. It's actually the B2B or TPM component, and obviously we're also supporting that out of the box. One of the topics that it's not a capability, but it's a very, very popular framework. It's starting to become very popular right now, which is the SAP pipeline. So obviously our software also supports testing of the concepts like SAP pipeline. And you can manage also, if you want, you can manage your tests also from SAP Cloud ALM directly through, or even execute it from SAP Cloud ALM if you would like to, from our software. One of the great things about our cooperation with SAP is that there is a special version for our software, which is called INT4 Shield Lite, which is free for 12 months as a part of the SAP BTP partnership we have. So if you have maybe a bit smaller landscape, maybe up to 100 interfaces, and you think that you will be able to migrate within 12 months, then possibly this is a software that you can use, because it's absolutely free. You can go to our website. I will share the links later on in the chat. You can go to our website, fill in the questionnaire, and download the software, and you can use it. You will get a license, and you can use it for free for 12 months. But maybe let me share with you a little bit more about the SAP integration migration story. So how does our software work on a very high level, and then we will go into maybe a little bit deeper level. So the technical migration usually starts with, as I mentioned, collecting messages for all of the interfaces from the SAP process orchestration. We download those messages from the production environment, because this is the environment that has the latest versions and the most number of those messages. I will tell you a little bit more about how do we do this on the next slides, but just maybe now for the purpose of staying on the high level, I will just tell you, we fetch those messages and we would store them as test cases in our software, which is called INT4 Shield, which is part of the INT4 suite. Each of the messages a pair of messages, meaning an input message and an output message, or maybe one input and multiple outputs, is a single test case for us. And what we would be doing, we're making sure that we will be making sure that we will have either hundreds or thousands of those test cases for each of your individual interface. I will tell you why this is important in a few seconds. So now once the technical migration is happening, so maybe you've moved some of the integrations to SAP Integration Suite, what we can do is we can automatically redirect our test cases that we stored from SAP PO into the Integration Suite and rerun them on the Integration Suite. So this means that we will make sure that all of the interfaces are from SAP PO are working exactly in the same way on the Integration Suite. So we can rerun those messages, but you might ask, okay, but what if my interfaces are changing? So this is also something that we can do. So we can, on the fly, we can change some of those interfaces. Maybe you would be changing, I don't know, from an IDOC to some sort of an API call. We have ways to reuse the same messages, the data from the same messages, but change the format using special transformer mappings, so you can still test those. Another example is, let's say that on the SAP PO, you have some of the mappings that you cannot migrate. Maybe these are old ABAP mappings. There are some companies that are still using this. Maybe these are some Java mappings and you want to redo them either in Groovy or maybe using the message mapping. Our software can also support this way of working, and this is what we call what is called test-driven development. So what we will do is we will fetch, just like we did before, we will fetch the input and outputs, and we will tell the developer, look, this is a mapping specification from this SAP PO interface, but most likely it's not updated, maybe it's not valid, maybe it doesn't even exist. But don't worry, you have a folder of maybe 100 or 200 test cases, meaning input and output pairs, and you have to create the mapping so that all of those test cases are working. So that means that the developer does not have to know what was the actual historical mapping program, because he has all of the test cases. So he just needs to work until all of the test cases are getting mapped exactly as they were on the historical platform, on the previous platform. And then he can say, look, I did the mapping. I have a proof that I've tested that with all of those 100 or a few hundred test cases, and my work is done. And it should be working because I used the historical messages. Right? So we do not only have to work with maybe lift and shift scenarios, but we can also support, first of all, new implementations, so complete greenfield implementations, or if the implementation needs to change significantly, like the mapping technology is changing. Obviously, in the future, right after the migration, all of our customers are constantly using our software for the business as usual perspective and for future programs, just by continuing to do continuous automated regression testing. Right. So right now, every month, if you move to the Integration Suite, every month SAP will be releasing new functionalities, which is fantastic. So you don't have to wait for your basis teams to install those. You will be getting them every month, but that also means that you only can delay those new functionalities for up to 2 weeks, and this is the time where you can do a massive automated regression testing, and obviously you can also do that with our software. Let's maybe jump a little bit more with respect of the time into the technicalities. So how do we do this? How does our software work so that we can fetch those test cases, fetch those historical messages, and how do we rerun them. In INT4 Suite, we have a part of the software that is called a robotic crawler. The robotic crawler is a magnificent program, or a scheduled program, that allows us to fetch all of the historical messages from all of your hundreds of thousands of interfaces at a single time, at a single execution. So the way it's working is that we can specify an environment. It's usually a productive environment. We can specify all of the interfaces on the SAP process orchestration, or PI, from which we want to fetch the messages. And there are a few other criteria, like, for example, we can specify how many of the messages historical messages for a single interface we should be fetching. Let's give it a take. This can be 100. Or maybe we want to specify a period from which we want to fetch those historical messages. And what we can also do with the robotic crawler is we can schedule it so it doesn't run during maybe the peak loads of when the SAP PO or maybe the previous platform is being used. So we want to make sure that, first of all, we can do it for all of the interfaces at once. And the second thing is we do not want to lower the performance of your production environment. The first question that I would like to answer here is, but why do we do this? Why do we download so many historical messages? If we come back to this, to the idea that we need to eliminate business and functional consultants from the scope of the SIT and UAT, so something very, very unusual. This is not when we're speaking with our customers for the first time, they usually say, but it's not possible. In our case, we have to do the testing using business and functional consultants. Not for the migration project. You don't have to do it. If you're doing a lift and shift transformation, there's absolutely no need to involve functional consultants because the integration platform is supposed to work exactly in the same way. So there's no need for them to do anything because it doesn't bring any value. The only thing we need to do with those functional and business consultants is we need to give them something that will make them feel secure. And there are two things within our software that we will be giving them. And one of them is we will be giving them the possibility to see that the testing that the software did is at least 10 times or in most cases, or 100 times more than they would do. So this is the first, let's say, technical functionality, which would justify not involving the functional consultants or business consultants for the UAT or SIT tests. We will tell them that the test that we will do will be at least 10 times more of what they would do, most likely 100 more. And this is why we need to gather all of those and fetch all of those test cases, right? We cannot do it if we have like 50 messages for all of our interface or 5 messages for each of our interfaces. We need to show them the numbers. We need to show them that we're testing with all of the variants through the whole period of, I don't know, maybe a few days, maybe a week. So we would do this kind of tests. One of the questions that I often get asked, can we also get those test cases? Where do we get those test cases? So we can get them from multiple platforms. We can get them from SAP PO. We can get them from MuleSoft, Boomi, Web Methods, as I mentioned, from many other platforms, because the value of SAP Integration Suite is so large that we're seeing a lot of migrations also from non-SAP platforms. And this is why we're supporting also the connectivity to many non-SAP platforms that are migrating. You can also upload the test cases manually, right? So we're also supporting customers who are migrating from homegrown integration platforms. So you can upload those historical messages from message archives manually. We also work with customers who are having EDI provider migrations because, for example, they want to migrate to the integration suite B2B capabilities. And again, Isabella mentioned that's the B2B factory, right? So if you're thinking about moving from EDI provider, there is SAP is providing this a special service called B2B factory, and INT4 is providing within also with the help of this service is providing an automated testing functionality. One of the questions we get asked is, okay, but what if we download 1,000 messages which are exactly the same for a single interface? For some of the customers, that is fine. This is what they want to do because they want to say, okay, I want to test a specific messages from a specific period of time. I don't care if they are the same. Right? So we can do it like this. One of our recent success stories, as I mentioned, the 5,000 interfaces that were moved. This is exactly how it was done. So our customer decided to just take a period of time of the messages from an old integration platform. It was actually a pretty large number of historical messages because they took 6 million historical messages and they've rerun 6 million historical messages on the integration suite test tenant. Right? So this is what they wanted to do. But we don't need to do it like this. There's a second way also. So we have within our software, we have machine learning capability that allows us to select out of those messages that we would download. It allows us to select only a certain or only the most representative messages. So we don't have to use all of them. We can just specify the most representative. And maybe I'll give you another example from one of our other customers. So this is a Swedish furniture manufacturing company. So they have 10 million test cases in their database, so meaning 10 million historical messages. But using this machine learning functionality, they've managed to select only 7,000 messages, which are the most representative. Right, so from 10 million to 7,000 that they're using on a daily basis. One other question: how long does it take to run the crawler? I mean, the only answer is till it's done. Right? Some of the messages are only getting executed maybe once a week. Some of them are executed once a month. So the crawler may be working for even a few weeks. But ultimately, what we aim for is we need to have a message store that allows us to perform the testing so that we can persuade the business not to get involved in this modernization program. So once we have all of those test cases, they get stored as each of the messages. It's stored in the folders in our software as a separate test case. What we can do is, because these are SAP process orchestration test cases. So what we can do is we can migrate them to the cloud integration test cases. And what does this migration mean? So we need to on the basis of our automation objects, which are a single point of configuration, we need to be able to tell the test case that right now we will connect the data from the test cases to a specific iFlow, or maybe a set of specific iFlows, and a set of actions, input and output actions within those iFlows. So then we can migrate all of those on a massive scale, and we will have the new test cases ready, and then we can either run all of them on the default landscape, which is, as you can see here, for example, a test landscape, or we can run them on any other landscape, right? So the beauty of using the automation objects is that we can reuse the same test cases on all of the landscapes. And then again, the question is, how many times will we have to run the tests? But it definitely depends on your function. right? So on your function, even as a developer. So if you're just doing a lift and shift, you've migrated everything, then probably you'll only, maybe for a single interface, you will do it maybe once. If there is an issue, maybe you will do it twice. Because maybe, I don't know, maybe you missed the value, some value mappings, or maybe you missed something else. So you will do it like this. This changes dramatically if you need to redo the mapping. So if you cannot reuse the mapping, for example, the ABAP mapping, or maybe the Java mapping, or maybe some strange XSLT mapping, and you want to redo it now, in this case, you may need to run it a lot more times. So as I mentioned, we're supporting this test-driven development initiatives. And I'll give you an example of a company who was migrating from IBM Sterling to the SAP Integration Platform. So the colleagues had to redo the mappings completely. So actually, after each of the changes in the mapping they did, they rerun the mapping. So for some of the mappings, they did it up to 60 times, 60. But it was very quick because you did it on a massive scale and you can very quickly find the results. So it's not a problem, right? It's you just have to do it a few times, but this actually speeds up your development. The functional validation. So this is again the thing where we want to maybe eliminate or reduce those colleagues. This is probably something where we will do it once, maybe twice. After we migrate all of our interfaces, we will have to do a complete functional validation. So we will pick all of our interfaces. If we have 1,000, we will pick all of our 1,000 interfaces, and we will pick all of the test cases that we have for all of those interfaces. We will rerun it, and we will have a report, and I will come back to that in a second, that provides that this is a proof for the functional and business colleagues that there is no need for them to involve in this process. Then obviously there are some more tests, right? If you would not be using Edge Integration Cell, and our software also supports Edge Integration Cell testing, you would be running your flows on the cloud. So one of the most important things you should be considering is just to make sure that the performance or volume validation, especially for companies that have any sort of peak hours, Black Fridays, things like this, that this is also working, right? So you may want to do it too. And the last step is obviously this, at least the continuous testing once a month before SAP releases a new functionality. Here I'm just showing you a run of a performance test. So obviously this is very important also for some of our customers who just want to make sure that that the performance on the cloud is exactly the same or better that we had on the in the on-prem environment. Or also we can test Edge Integration Cell in the same way. But let me come back to this point. So because this is the second, let's say, special functionality, apart from being able to handle thousands or millions of tests, which will allow us to remove the functional consultants from the scope of our projects. These are the test results. So on one hand, when we go to the functional consultants and we try to tell them, guys, you don't need to be involved in this project, and we will test everything. So actually there is no need to have additional cost of the functional and test and business resources. We will tell them we will do a lot more testing. But the second thing we need to tell them is we need to tell them that we will actually provide you an audit grade proof of that, which is the test result capability. So the testing results that we will provide to you, you will be able to store those tests. You will always have a link to this test. This test will always be available, and you can drill down up to any kind of level that you want. You can even check what are the specific variants of the messages we've tested. But this is a proof for you that the testing was done. It was not done just by a developer who said, I did the testing, and these are my, I don't know, maybe 10 Postman collections, and no one knows how to open them. So we're providing to the business colleagues a test, auditable grade testing that allows them to say, okay, I see that you did the test, so this is the test that I'm approving, right? And together with the second piece, the number of tests that we will do, this is the piece that complements this whole puzzle. And hopefully it will allow you to say, it will allow the functional consultants to agree with you and not take part in the SIT and in the UAT phases of your program. Right, as I mentioned, we can go into any kind of, or the functional consultants or developers can go to any kind of details just to compare the current execution on the integration suite with the reference message that can be taken from SAP PO, Boomi, MuleSoft, or maybe uploaded manually. We can, just like any other testing software, we can provide we can mark some of the fields as maybe not relevant information. We can change some of the fields. We have ways to make some of those fields as variables. We can even, right now we have our colleagues just a month ago, they've released also a scripting editor for some very complex cases, which is called Aster. And it even allows to do very, very complex calculations on those test cases. So for example, we can check if the messages, if the complete quantity of all of the lines is of a specific value, right? So the Aster, the scripting editor allows us to do very, very complex validations, but all of the standard validations are also supported. Yeah, so maybe just before we go into the Q&A, before I will look at the section, just a summary. Why is INT4 Shield unique? So INT4 Suite is actually made of three different components, and all of them are only related to testing SAP integration. Some of them more on testing integration platforms, some of them more for testing integrations on the S/4HANA system. But for us, the suite is just a complete, very holistic way to look at integrations for the SAP, for the largest SAP customers. As I mentioned before, we're not only, INT4 Suite is not only recommended by SAP, but it's the only platform that is used by SAP. We're supporting not only all of the capabilities of the integration suite, but like cloud integration, B2B, event management, or APIM, but also many other integration platforms. But one of the points that I would again like to highlight here is that the data within our software is safe. What you don't want to do when you're doing any kind of testing of SAP integration is you don't want the developers to download hundreds or thousands of historical messages to their laptops, right? Because then you will be violating all of the GDPR rules that you have in your organizations. Also, what you don't want to do is you don't want to store all of those messages in some database somewhere there where no one has access, or maybe it's not visible. You want to treat this data as a very, very in a very, very secure way. And maybe let me stop here. Just have a quick look at the Q&A.